Hey, this is AK and you're listening to AudioVision. So, on this episode of AudioVision, we're going to be talking about the economy. The economy is a crazy tool, in my mind. In many people's minds, it's very necessary to have a monetary value on the resources we choose to use, in day-to-day using, I suppose. But seriously, it's not functioning in harmony with, the human vessel. It allows paper money and digital money to hold more value than our own lives. And it does something. It does something very important. And it's worth knowing what it does, because without it, we probably would be at war, like every other month. Currently, we need to, allow the economy to predict the wars, to, push us towards that energy. And we have the boom-bust poverty war cycle that has been going on for generations. And it works because we have a collective ego. And the only other way to balance that collective ego is through spirituality. And because of the money system, we have forgotten about the importance of these religious ties. And yes, don't get me wrong, a lot of people don't want to hear about religion because of all the bad things it causes. And the only reason that is because of language barriers. We actually don't know how to communicate with one another. And because of our egos, we don't allow other people's opinions to affect us in a positive way. Well, this is changing, don't get me wrong. There's millions of us who allow positive change. But in general, for years prior to this, large groups of people only believed what they had been told their whole lives. And that's totally understanding. That's why a lot of us let our kids choose. We let our kids come up with their own ideas and whatever else. But that's also becoming very messy in this current economy. So I guess in essence what I'm trying to say is that we need some sort of tool of balance. And the economy does that today. But we're moving towards a greater understanding, a bigger realization of a cosmic consciousness, where if we learn how to combine all of the best parts of every social structure that has come before, then we can create a reality of true abundance, true equality, true sustainability, through a transparent, moneyless system where things are available at no cost. We may have a chance to start balancing all of the pollution in our planet through cycles of industrial cleansing. And by that I mean, what I believe that I heard this not too long ago in Germany or different parts of Europe. They make it the company's responsibility to recycle all materials, even after it's been purchased. So if you go buy a car and then you leave it somewhere and then you never come and pick it up, it becomes that corporation's responsibility to go get that car and recycle it. However, if we implement these ideas across the board, in every country, in every community, throughout all industries, then we'll never have pollution. With the advent of 3D printers, we can change our department stores to be recycling stations, in the sense of you bring your old products in, we break them down, and we print new ones. In a lot of cases with metals and stuff like that, we're not, at that capability yet, but we could still do it. We know how to melt down metals and re-pour them. Even with old buildings, we could break down all the materials from old buildings, take as much out as we possibly can and recycle it, and then bust the rest up and use it as aggregates in giant 3D printers to print homes. we now know we can print homes in about 20 hours. So it's like we are at the brink of the future, but we have to make very subtle economic changes so that we don't have massive civil unrest, right? Like if you just get rid of money, then all of a sudden, things are going to be looted, places are going to be broken into, people are going to be rioting all over the place. We're waiting to explode, a lot of us, right? We're like spinning around inside our minds and our hearts are racing and we don't really understand the energies that are within us. So, like sometimes bad things happen. We blow up. Anger takes over. Frustration comes from fear. We're living in fear. The media is just pumping fear into your mind all the time. And it helps to keep us in our box. To keep us hiding in a shell. But that shell is cracking. We're growing beyond the seed. We're extending our petals past the soil and reaching for the sun. This is a time of massive transformation, and in order to have it happen in, the most harmonious way possible, we need to reach out and help one another. We need to lend a hand in whichever capacity we can. We need to understand that the dream job isn't just going to show up. We need to create it. And if we don't participate in the industries that we truthfully love, and we don't learn to work with all kinds of people. Like, I've been involved in so many situations where I'm just looking at people like, what are they thinking about me? Like, they must think I'm this, or they must think I'm that. And I start putting these ideas into my own head. And I'm basically just looking in the mirror. And essentially, so are you. You're always just looking in the mirror at another person, and that's where judgment comes from. And when you become honest with yourself, it's just so much easier to become honest with other people, and you start allowing these weights to just lift off your chest. But sometimes with honesty comes hardships, and I've lost a couple really close friends because of my honesty. I don't know if I've lost them actually, but I know that we are in a period of duress where our friendships may fade, and that's never what I wanted to have happen. I'm kind of one of those guys who likes the idea of unity. Yes, I like to be alone and to kind of, meditate on my own ideas and stuff and then come back into the united circle, but I still need to work towards common ground and towards friendship and love. But in our current economy, you have to be strong. Your love has to extend beyond our planet, because this structure is based on segregation. You can't have unity in a segregated community. You can only have blame. It's always going to be someone else's fault for the ways that you feel. And if you don't somehow learn to understand your own emotions, and this is where spirituality comes into play. If you don't meditate on your own feelings and the rushes that rise within you, then you'll never understand where they're coming from. Me, myself, I masked everything through the use of substances, specifically pot and alcohol. Yes, I tried all kinds of drugs growing up, which probably expanded my mind in ways that I could never explain, but I am actually thankful for them. And I'm super thankful that I never became addicted to some of these drugs, because I've seen what they've done to other people and how they've ruined other people's lives. However, with dependency on alcohol and pot, I've come to the realization that I am the only one who can change my life, who can save me. Nobody else can. I have to choose to not be dependent. And in the advent of this podcast in particular, I have found a way to do just that. I've realized that I don't need to be high all day long to deal with the situations that I thought I needed to deal with. Instead, I need to have a clear mind. I need to know who I'm talking to and what I'm talking to them about. I need to share my feelings with all people so that they can realize what they're participating in. We're all in this together. Yes, in our current economy, we are seeking self-interest, but that's essentially all we can do. We have to make ends meet. We have to make enough money to keep our house or our apartment or our car on the road, to feed our children, to feed ourselves, to afford our habits, to go on vacation, whatever it may be, to buy the things we think we need. And if we don't participate in that segregated economic ideology, then we fail. We fall apart. We end up on the streets hating the system. Lots of us have hated the system. Many of us understand the necessity of it. More of us are starting to see the need to shift out of this structure and into a new, yet ancient, idea of community connectedness. Luckily, in Superior Thunder, where I've been blessed to be born and raised, this is common sense. People are connected in so many fashions that I am just like blown away when I look at the amount of people who have risen above their hardships to create the world they need to live in so that the next generation can have a better life. But in understanding that we're creating a new economy for the next generation, we have to praise the old idea. The idea that got us here. If it wasn't for our parents fighting through the Industrial Revolution, if it wasn't for our grandparents fighting through world wars to get us to this new world where we can amalgamate as all nationalities in one country, well, I guess in two countries here, in our side, in the New World, Western culture, there are two new countries. The American dream, which is just barely hanging on to its aspirations, and Canada, which is, Kanata, the earth which we live upon. It's the amalgamation of all nations, just as America was, but we are at a higher point in global realization. We see the need for unity, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that the other countries don't see this. I'm just saying our country has always tried to unite people. Yes, there was the mishap of residential schools and colonialistic values that totally destroyed the Asian culture of First Nations, Ojibwe, Cree, I can't name them all, although I should because I have a history in Indigenous learning, but that was part of the Dark Ages, and we have risen above that. We realize the importance of rectifying the situation. I myself am also of Asian background, and I see how the Canadian government put their thumb on my Japanese ancestry and took everything away from them. They essentially stepped on them and said, hey, you're like a bunch of ants, we're squishing you. And then 20 years later, after they've taken their homes, separated their families, put them into camps, they give them $10,000 or $20,000. Like, that's an insult. That's a smack in the face. And that essentially is what happened to the First Nations people as well. They have been given, I guess, some form of redemption through free money. But that money is not free. It is causing a hiccup. It's causing this racist ideology to form within the rest of the working class. And not that First Nations people don't work, but I know lots of super educated First Nations people who are very hardworking, dedicated individuals. And I've worked in many First Nations schools where you see the talent that is arising within a lot of these students. But the way of this world is it's generational pain, and we're feeling the pain of those old happenings. Like I just mentioned with my Japanese ancestry. It's the same as the First Nations, and a lot of people, especially when I've traveled throughout my community who aren't First Nations, they don't understand this. They think that we're just giving money away for free. And I guess in some ways, yeah, that's what's happening. But that's not what the problem is. The problem is that we're creating two separate groups of people. we're creating a group who pays for another group, or who thinks they pay for another group, while that other group who is being bought out or sold out, as far as I'm concerned, they remember the pain of the past, and that is still happening to them today. I'm not going to get into that darkness, because you all know what it is, and you can find the information of what those colonialistic values did to these pure, truly connected people. These people were attached to the land. They planned for 7 generations. They knew what they needed to do, how to respect the Creator, how to give back to the land so that it would produce for generations to come. And not that the colonialistic ideology didn't help to create an economy that boomed and allowed us to grow as fast as we did, and not that they're not connected to a creator or a god, but a lot of their darkness that they brought with them over to the New World is, or was, and is, the reason why racism exists today, and why a certain culture of people are essentially stuck in this cycle of disbelief, where they can't seem to participate in a system that they know destroyed their culture. And I don't want anyone who's listening to feel blamed or accused, but this is what is happening. We have separated ourselves from the planet. This was a plan that existed thousands of years ago, and it was a way to build a money system, the economy. I don't know who planned it or what families still exist today. Frankly, I don't care. All I know is that it's affecting us in a negative way. And in order to come together and to appreciate the planet that we've been given to become shepherds of this land and of the animals, we need to respect the entire biosphere, every living creature. Don't get me wrong, we need to hunt and gather. Yes, plants are alive, and maybe they do or don't feel, I don't know. But animals definitely feel, they definitely communicate. I'm going to go back on that last thing I say. I do believe that plants feel and communicate, but hey man, I might just be a weird hippie. Mind you, I like hippies. But think about it, like, if we don't connect ourselves, even with these insects, like these insects are the reasons why trees can grow. And if trees don't grow, like if they don't have worms and ants and centipedes and everything crawling around loosening up that soil for roots to move and water to get in there for trees to grow, then you don't breathe. Bottom line, you can't breathe. You need this entire biosphere. And by supporting this economy, this current economy, we continue to pollute, to destroy, to segregate, separate ourselves from any spiritual ties that we can ever imagine holding dear to our heart. And this is what the world has become. It's shifting though. Ancient ideas are traveling overseas, traveling through the internet, rising up on the airwaves, and they're changing our hearts and our minds, and they're allowing us to understand the connection between the two, the connection between all of us, the connection between us and the earth, between the earth and the sun, between the sun and the solar system, and beyond. Furthermore, this is another topic, but to believe in molecules is the same as to believe in the solar system. The micro is the macro, and without your attention, neither of them exist. So there's no sense in being afraid of the end of the world, because it's only going to come if you focus on it. If we don't plan for a better world, and we just sit here watching the news, then that's what's going to happen. The end of the world will arise. Luckily for us, ancient ancestors planned something. They already made the end of the world happen before our energy levels were at a peak where we would, draw those scary things in, where we would bring the darkness to us. So all of us can do it on an individual level. Many of us are waiting for some sort of Brahma or a Godhead or a Son of God to return, right? And in essence, we have to realize that the only return is of your love. And if your love returns, then so has God, so has Allah, so has Yahweh. DNA is the essence, right? They say it waters the essence of life, which is true, but DNA is like the breakdown of everything that creates what we are. That is Allah. That is Yahweh. That is the energy of above and beyond. And we know that today. Like, science and spirituality have finally meshed, so we don't have to sit here and go, what do you think, science or religion? They're both the same. Science is the articulation of religion. However, as we grow in our economic values, as we try to achieve money and achieve homes and achieve cars and toys and camps and boats and all these things, as we try to achieve those, we move ourselves away from that collective understanding, and we forget about the importance of praise, of inner peace, of thankfulness, and the understanding that the above and beyond is all within. So in order to have a shifting economy that allows us to see all of this stuff, to participate in a spiritual reality, we almost have to shift out of a money system. But like mentioned before, you can't just get rid of money, because that's when the collective ego arises and bad things take place. So we need to somehow get from here to there in a positive manner. And volunteerism is probably the best way to do that. The more people volunteer, the more we find ways to give back. Think about it. Volunteer at a food kitchen. You're going to have access to food. You know what I mean? That's one less bill. Participate in the creation of, like photovoltaic cells. All of a sudden, you're going to find a way to power your house. Yes, some of those ideas are far away, and it depends on the teams you work with. And unfortunately, we need to find teams with money to get involved so that we can actually move forward with research and design and transform at a relatively decent pace. But that's where we are today. And hopefully with this changing government, in Canada anyway, we're going to start seeing the importance of all these new technologies, and the fact that our economy is, I guess, it's what holds us together. It doesn't need to grow the way we think it needs to grow, though. Like, money doesn't need to become more valuable all the time. We need to grow as individuals. So our economy should be directing us towards free education so that we can grow inside of ourselves, capitalize on our own capabilities, socialize with the community around us, allow parents to participate day to day in the education of our community's children, so that our economy grows in a true ecological, evolutionary state. Like, to know the importance of our life ground transcends any money system that could ever arise on planet Earth. If we don't have resources, true resources, the metals that we need to create the technology that we have, the soils that we need to grow the foods that we need to survive, the waters that we depend on to allow all life to flourish on planet Earth. If we don't have any of this, then what's the point of an economy? We need to find a balance between the two. And that's happening. This economy is changing, but we still have a corporatocracy. We still have a hierarchy that is not needed. We need equality, and we need people to be able to participate at the rate that they understand. We are approaching this swiftly, and the simple thought of it makes me smile. I love to know that we are reaching a point where our families may not be segregated the way they are today. Yes, we all need personal time. Yes, we all need to participate in different industries so that we can move our world forward. But we know that this 40-hour-a-week work structure is just taking us away from one another. Many people in relationships try to get jobs at the same place as the person they love so they can spend more time together, which is cool because then you get to see another side of the person, because you're always different at work than you are at home. And like mentioned, we do need our time apart, but we also need functional time together where we're not racing around the clock. We're not trying to make ends meet. Ends won't meet unless we allow them to. And by keeping this current monetary structure alive, we can't allow ends to meet. We simply can't. We're constantly chasing our dreams, which is good because it creates for a motivated individual. And I don't want to sound lazy because I'm probably coming across as someone who doesn't want to go to work or something. And in some cases I don't, but who does all the time, right? Like, you go to the same place every day doing the same thing all the time. Eventually you're going to get bored. So you got to switch it up. I actually love documenting stuff. I want to go and participate in every industry and film stuff. And currently I'm editing all the stuff I film, so it takes me like years sometimes to finish certain things, especially things that don't have money involved in them. Those are usually the things I like the most, but they end up hitting the back burner, right? But I would love if my job was just going and filming all these different industries, giving the footage to an editor, working with the editor obviously so I don't, like overwhelm them with footage, so that we can put real important information on television so kids can see what type of industries we need help in, what type of professionals they can become when they grow up. We need to start cherishing all professionals. We can't have a segregation between upper class and lower class. We can't have people in the office making more money than people on the ground floor who are building and manufacturing all the things that we need. Therein creates animosity. And this idea of, I'm better than you, or those people are scum, that hurts. It makes me want to say to those people who feel better, your judgment is what makes you scum. And the only reason I'm comfortable saying that is because I know I am scum. And that's okay with me. I've been the scum of the earth. I've been face down, drunk in my own puke, plenty of times. But I've also helped people up who are face down, carried them to my car and driven them home. I've seen both sides of the scale, and I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. Like I said, if you need someone to blame me. But do it by listening to my podcast. Subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Share it with the rest of the world. And then share your ideas with the rest of the world. Because if you don't share your ideas, then all they're going to do is build up inside of you and come out the wrong way. In a way that you regret. In a way that you will forever feel remorse. And then, all of a sudden, that remorse turns into weight that you can no longer carry. Don't let that weight build up. Share how you feel in a positive manner so that you affect people in a good way. The only way to change the world is to change yourself. And this is what we're all trying to do today. But don't listen to me. Take it from yourself. Only you can find the answers within. Thanks for listening to AudioVision.